Okay, so I don't know where this video is going to land in the queue. I have other videos that I've recorded that will probably go first. But anyways, I'm recording this on Labor Day. As you can see, I got my cool little farm hat, so to speak, and I'm out just doing some last minute chores before we do stuff as a family. But what I've been working on for the past couple of weeks is getting ground laid. I was trying to see if I can turn this around. No, I can't. But anyways, you can see there's some holes. Dug some holes for some fruit trees that I have. I have my garden just up the way over here. It's been a good experience. I've had some pretty good harvest, not the best. Made some mistakes along the way, but this is something that I've been working on doing, trying to really expand and create a permaculture in my backyard, and we'll see how that turns out. But it's been a good experience, and next year I think I'll do better. But still, it's been good, and I've been happy to see the progress. Been able to have some fresh fruit as in vegetables to eat, and it's been nice to kind of save money that way. Tomatoes and zucchinis, things like that, and look forward to have fruit trees and be more self-sufficient as economic times get harder. In any case, the purpose of this video is kind of mention the importance of, not the importance, but talk about blessings, but more so how blessings aren't necessarily, blessings from God, should I say, are not readily apparent. And sometimes what seems like a curse or God's disfavor is actually a blessing. And this kind of goes for me in a different way, because I know people who have grown up in homes where there was a push for manual labor, where the father had a garden or pushed the kids to work in the field, or they grew up on a farm even, and so they had to learn how to work in the fields and how to tend the crops and exert that manual effort. And I did not necessarily grow up that way. Fortunately, my parents pushed hard work and instilled that in me, but it wasn't in terms of manual labor. Not very handy. It's not something I learned growing up. And so these things are things I've had to learn along the way, and it's been particularly apparent as I'm working on the garden, as I am a complete beginner and I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm having to essentially, I guess, walk by faith in a way, just get the information I can and from online resources and people I know, and then apply it and learn from my mistakes and try again. But what I'm getting at is because I didn't grow up in that environment, I've had to learn along the way, and I've had to struggle along the way as I've tried to create a garden and a mini homestead in my backyard, where those who have grown up in an environment where they had manual labor, where those things were emphasized and taught, they're leaps and bounds ahead of me, and they can do things that I can't, and they can start things quicker than I can. And if they were in my position, they'd probably have a flourishing permaculture area already for them, where I'm having to struggle. And so what I'm getting at is that those who grew up in that environment probably felt that it was hard and difficult and unfair, but because they learned the things that they did, they're further advanced than I am. And so in that way, it actually was a blessing, because as times get harder, and as economic times especially get harder, and we're going to need to rely more on growing our own food and those habits of old and those customs of old, I guess, of working in the fields, of laboring for what you eat, are going to be more apparent. And those who have learned those skills early on will thrive and will be blessed. And I think that's one way the Lord blesses people, is he actually puts the blessings actually going to the descent, because you learn the things you wouldn't learn any other way, and it prepares you. You grow from that experience, that then when the hardship comes, you've already been there. And I've had some experiences where outside of manual labor, I've before so currently I'm a lawyer, but before that I was a teacher and taught inner city school, and it was really difficult, and I was working many hours, probably more hours than I was working more hours than I was as a lawyer, but it was really stressful, it was really hard. There was expectation of performance from your students, a lot of stress, and I was working 60, 70 hours easy and getting paid almost nothing. And it was stressful, and there were times I just wanted to quit, and life was really hard. But now I realize that was a blessing, because now in my current occupation as a lawyer, there is stress associated with being a lawyer, and there are deadlines, but I'm already used to it. It's kind of like, it's nothing new to me. I've been through that period of deadline, of pressure. Further, when I was a teacher, I learned how to organize a lot better, because one of the things that revealed to me as a teacher is I was terribly disorganized, and that made things a lot harder. And so I had to learn to be more organized. But those habits of organization that I learned as a teacher carried on into being a lawyer, because as a lawyer, you need to be really well organized, because you got multiple caseloads. You've got to make sure you meet the deadlines. If you don't meet the deadlines, that could be a dismissal of your case, or could create more problems. And so basically that trial and that experience of being a teacher and the stress that came with it ended up being a blessing in the end, because now when I'm faced with difficult times as in my profession, when there's a deadline, I've already been around that. I'm used to that. I'm used to being on the crunch and needing to get things done in a certain time. And although it's still a little stressful, it's not like I'm breaking down and having a panic attack, but I deal with it. I'm used to it. It's like nothing different. And so that's kind of the same thing with people who do manual labor. If they saw me doing the garden, they'd be like, oh, this is easy. I can easily do what you're doing in half the time, or even quicker than half the time, whatever that is. I can easily do what you're doing, and without a sweat, and you're struggling and you don't know what you're doing. And so it just kind of goes to show that, I guess, when you're in a certain situation and you feel like God's let you go, or he's abandoned you, he could actually be blessing you in the future. He could be putting you in a circumstance that is teaching you skills that will allow you to be more powerful later on, as he puts you in a circumstance, and then later on that same circumstance will present yourself. But because you surrendered to God and you were humble and you learned what he was trying to teach you, that circumstance will be something that's easy, and you'll be able to overcome, and you'll maybe even be a light to others, and you'll be able to show them, hey, I can handle this in a way that you can't. Let me teach you. And therefore God uses you to encourage and uplift others. So anyways, just a little thought about blessings, that sometimes we think the blessings come immediately, and sometimes really it might be most frequently that the blessing actually comes from the descent, and it's what you learn. And the real thing that God can bless you with is to give you the thing that would be the most challenging, because that's the way you learn and grow, improve, and become better, and then be able to endure the similar circumstance easily. And it won't be hard, and it won't be difficult. It will be something that you're used to and you can just do. So anyways, those are my thoughts on this Labor Day. Thanks, bud.